From the moment her name is spoken, an image forms in the mind of the world. A frail woman in a white sari, with blue borders, her face lined by age and devotion, her eyes soft with compassion. For decades she was presented as the purest embodiment of mercy in the modern age, a living saint among the living poor. A woman who walked into the forgotten corners of the earth and carried God with her hands. Her name was Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and to millions she represented the highest possible form of human goodness. She was praised by presidents and popes, embraced by royalty, honored by universities, and awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Streets were named after her, schools were built in her honor. Donations flowed from every continent. When she died in 1997, her funeral was treated as a state event in India, and her tomb immediately became a site of pilgrimage. Less than 2 decades later, she was canonized as a saint by the Vatican in a process so fast it raised eyebrows even inside the church. And yet, beneath that glowing image, another story has always existed, a story rarely told in full. A story made of uncomfortable questions, suppressed testimonies, financial opacity, ideological extremism, and a disturbing philosophy of suffering. A story in which the world's most famous nun is not simply a symbol of compassion, but one of the most controversial religious figures of the 20th century. To understand how both of these realities can coexist, one must return to the beginning, long before Calcutta, long before the Nobel Prize, long before the cameras arrived. She was born on August 26, 1910, in the city of Skopje, then part of the Ottoman Empire, in a region that would later be shaped by the violent redrawing of Balkan borders. Her baptismal name was Angezu Gonks Bayaksiu, later westernized as Agnes. Her family was Albanian. Deeply Catholic and intensely devout, religion was not simply part of daily life. It structured identity, purpose, and destiny. Her father, Nicola, was a businessman. Her mother, Drana, ran the household and raised the children in strict Catholic discipline. Agnes received her first communion at the age of 5. She was confirmed a year later. When she was 8, her father died suddenly, leaving the family financially and emotionally shaken. From that moment forward, her mother became the moral center of the household, reinforcing prayer, sacrifice, and obedience as the highest virtues. By the time Agnes was 12, she was already showing signs of religious vocation. At 17, she made her decision. She would become a missionary nun. In 1928, she left her home and travelled to Ireland to join the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, known as the Sisters of Loreto. It was there that she took the name Sister Teresa, inspired by Thérèse of Lisieux, a 19th century French Carmelite nun later canonized as a saint. In 1929, while still a novice, she was sent to India. 2 years later, she took her first vows and was assigned to a Catholic girls' school in Calcutta, where she worked as a teacher. In 1937, she made her perpetual vows and became a full member of the order. She would later describe that moment as becoming the spouse of Jesus for all eternity. For years, she lived the stable life of a religious educator. She taught geography and history. She eventually became principal of the school. Outwardly, she was a disciplined, obedient nun fulfilling her institutional duties, but inwardly, something was growing. A dissatisfaction, a conviction that her vocation demanded more than the walls of a convent could contain. In December of 1946, during a train journey from Calcutta to Darjeeling for her annual retreat, she experienced what she later described as a call within a call. She never fully explained what occurred, only that she felt Christ speaking to her interiorly, asking her to leave the convent and serve the poorest of the poor directly. She would later claim that Jesus begged her to become his light among the abandoned, the suffering, and the forgotten. For 2 years she wrestled with that experience, seeking permission from church authorities to leave the Loreto order. In 1948, she finally received approval. She left the convent after nearly 20 years and stepped into the slums of Calcutta wearing, for the first time, the white sari with blue borders that would become her visual signature. She became an Indian citizen. She took basic medical training. She moved into the home of another Catholic charity. Every morning she prayed, Then she walked into the streets. She cleaned wounds. She fed the starving. She comforted the dying. At least, that is how the official narrative describes those early years. Volunteers began to join her. Former students followed her. Donations trickled in. In 1950, the Vatican officially approved her new congregation, the Missionaries of Charity. The organization expanded rapidly. Homes for the dying were opened. Facilities for people with leprosy were established. Orphanages were created. By the 1960s, sisters were being sent abroad. In 1965, Pope Paul VI issued a formal decree praising the order and encouraging its global expansion. Within decades, missionaries of charity houses existed in over 100 countries. Yet Mother Teresa herself remained relatively unknown outside religious circles until 1967, when BBC journalist Malcolm Muggeridge aired a television special about her work. The following year, he returned to Calcutta to produce a documentary titled Something Beautiful for God. The film transformed her into an international icon. Donations flooded in. Political leaders embraced her. The mythology was born. In 1979, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. In her acceptance speech, she condemned abortion as the greatest threat to peace. She framed suffering as a divine gift. She spoke of the beauty of pain when united with Christ. To her supporters, it was proof of spiritual depth. To her critics, it was the first public glimpse of something deeply troubling. Behind the image of relentless compassion, another reality was forming. A spiritual crisis that would follow her for nearly 50 years. After her death, her private letters and journals revealed that she experienced what she called a permanent separation from God, a profound inner darkness, a sensation of abandonment, a spiritual desert that never lifted. She continued working. She continued preaching faith. But privately, she felt that God was absent, silent, unreachable. Some later interpreted this as heroic perseverance. Others interpreted it as evidence that she no longer believed what she publicly proclaimed. Her health deteriorated. She suffered heart attacks in 1983 and 1989. A pacemaker was implanted. She developed pneumonia and malaria. In 1997, she resigned as head of the Missionaries of Charity. On September 5th, she died of heart failure at the age of 87. The Vatican moved with extraordinary speed. The usual 5-year waiting period for sainthood investigations was waived. In 2003, she was beatified after the Church accepted a miracle involving the healing of a woman with an abdominal tumor. In 2016, she was canonized after a second miracle. This one involving a Brazilian man with multiple brain abscesses who recovered after prayers, invoking her intercession. To the world, the case seemed closed. Saint Teresa of Calcutta. But for her critics, it was only beginning. Indian physician Arup Chatterjee, who grew up in Calcutta, spent years investigating her institutions. He documented reused needles, lack of pain medication, absence of proper diagnostics, and unsanitary conditions. He argued that the suffering of patients was not minimized, but accepted as spiritually valuable. Journalist Christopher Hitchens went further. He accused her of cultivating a cult of suffering, of imposing her theology on dying patients, of accepting donations from corrupt figures, and of publicly opposing contraception and divorce, while privately endorsing exceptions for elites. He testified against her beatification. He called her not a friend of the poor, but a friend of poverty. She accepted millions from convicted fraudster Charles Keating and wrote to a judge asking for leniency on his behalf. She defended authoritarian leaders. She campaigned against divorce in Ireland, while privately supporting Princess Diana's separation. Her congregation never released transparent financial records. Critics questioned where the vast sums went. And yet, defenders argue that she never claimed to build hospitals, that her mission was to offer dignity in death, that her critics ignored historical context and cultural realities, that miracles are a matter of faith, not laboratory standards. So who was she really? A saint who endured spiritual agony while serving the forgotten, or an ideologue who transformed suffering into a theological instrument? Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. Perhaps the truth is far more unsettling than either side wants to admit. Subscribe to the channel to follow more stories like this. Like the video, share it, and leave a comment with your suggestions for future themes or historical figures you would like to see explored.